What's going on YouTube? It's Raphael here today, and for this video I am going to be talking, well, ranting actually, about The Flash Season 9, but we will mostly be focusing on the series finale for this video, and I'm sure as you can tell by the title of this video, I am definitely not a fan of what they did with the ending of this show. In fact, I actually struggle, in my honest opinion, I struggle to find just the right amount of words to say just how much I hated this finale. Like I really, really hated it. And in my opinion, I think it's the worst. It had the worst series finale of all the Arrowverse shows. And yeah, that includes even Legends of Tomorrow. Like Legends ended with a cliffhanger, but at least I didn't really feel insulted or like, to the point where I was screaming at my TV like in the Flash finale. So just to give some context, if you have followed me on this channel for a while, I have made some Flash videos throughout the years talking about my honest opinions about some of the show's latest decisions in their last few seasons. And I was hoping that by the final season that this would be mostly fixed. I mean, look, they had a good opportunity, and let me explain why. We had 13 episodes for the final season, obviously, and that was a very good opportunity to cut down on any filler episodes or probably improve the pacing of the show because the Flash definitely has had problems with pacing sometimes. Like they have to drag out certain storylines to reach the 23 episodes that they usually get, and they had an opportunity to do that with this because they shortened the final season drastically. But instead, what we got was a lot of filler episodes that made the season feel like it was 20 plus episodes instead of 13. So specifically, it was around the middle of the season where I think a lot of those episodes barely even had the main character in it, so which is utterly ridiculous, especially with the what you could have done. Like for example, you had all these old speedsters returning in the final episode, and with that kind of potential, it really was baffling to see just how badly Eric Wallace and the crew, whoever's managing the shows, it's baffling to see just how they screwed up that potential. Now, if you don't mind any spoilers, then you can obviously continue on, but I'm just gonna give you a warning that there's a lot of spoilers past this point, so yeah, after that, proceed at your own risk. We're going to go ahead and talk more in detail about the Flash Season 9 finale, and then I'll also get more into my thoughts about the rest of the season. So, we start off with the series finale, and, Barry has been displaced throughout time thanks to Eddie. Eddie is the villain for this, and I know, so then Eddie brings back all the Speedster villains as teased from the previous episode, and if I'm being completely honest with you guys, I already had a bad feeling about this because during the 4 episodes of the final, the graphic novels, which Eric Wallace, when he took over the show, he's calling those arcs graphic novels, so after the Red Death saga concluded and then those interlude episodes concluded, we had the A New World saga, which is basically the final graphic novel of the show. They spent the last 3 episodes dealing with Eddie coming back to life and Barry being displaced throughout time, and then at the final episode, well, actually the second to final episode, that is when we see that Eddie plans to bring back all the old speedsters. That is Reverse Flash, Savitar, Zoom, and even Godspeed from season 7. So even at that point, I was already kind of worried on how this would go down. Let me explain why. Because if you're going to, you're gonna cram all these speedsters into one, these are all season-long villains, which were very hard to defeat at the time, you would have to worry about also wrapping up a lot of the previous plot points you set up earlier in the final season. You would have to make them have a satisfying fight scenes with Flash and his other teammates, and then you would have to kind of do all that in under 40 minutes. So I already knew that the finale episode was going to have a hard time balancing all of that, but even with my low expectations, I really, really could never have predicted just how bad it would have gotten. Now, like I said before, the Flash Season 9 was just terrible in general. The whole season, except for maybe 3 episodes, the rest of the season was absolute trash. And I'm not, like, as a fan of this show since 2015, it hurts me to say that. I'm not trying to just be a hater, but in my honest opinion, the watching experience was torture because of just how badly the season was paced, and especially what excuse me, I had a coughing fit there. Especially during the middle of the season, that would be episode 6, 7, and 8, which were both all filler episodes. That was like the most like painful watching experience of my life on the entire show. Like, I imagine getting 3 weeks straight of bad episode after bad episode, and Barry himself was barely in it, except for like one of them where they're trapped in some sort of like kind of maze thingy, and they kind of have to figure it out. But other than that, everyone was just waiting for episode 9 when Oliver eventually returned, and that was a good episode. So I would say the 3 episodes that I mentioned earlier that were great were episodes 9, episodes 10, and episode 1. So the Groundhog Day episode, the very first episode of the final season, was a good watch. Episode 9, when Bloodwork and Oliver and Diggle returned, that was also very good. And my personal favorite episode was the 10th episode of the season, because that is when they finally pay off the Flash and Reverse Flash going back to the year 2000. They went back to March 18th, 2000, you know, the day Nora Allen died in the show. And we finally got that, like, moment where they come full circle and Barry waves his season 1 self to not save his mother. So, you know, since I've been watching this show in 2015, I've been waiting almost a decade to see just how that would play out, and it was very satisfying. So, good job. But still, it is absolutely disgraceful that out of 13 episodes for the final season, 13 episodes, they only had about 2 to 3 decent episodes to watch. Like, that is just unbelievable. Like, that's beyond even my wildest dreams, and I already had my expectations set really low after how bad season 7 was. Well, season 8 was okay. Like, it wasn't anything special, but it wasn't as bad as season 7, thankfully. But season 9 was probably, like, almost season 7 levels of terrible. Like, those two are my 2 least favorite seasons of the whole show. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the final episode. So, okay, so to go back to the point where Eddie resurrects all those speedsters, okay? So now that they have to cram all this into one episode, we get all the speedsters interacting with each other in the negative speed force, and so now, to be honest, that was like probably the best part of the episode, seeing all the speedsters meeting each other. But then, unfortunately, it just goes downhill from there. Now, this is when I have seen some of the most absolute bullshit stuff that I've ever seen. So, we get these evil speedsters against Team Flash, right? So, we get Cecile destroying Godspeed, Allegra defeating Reverse Flash, and then we had Zoom easily being destroyed. Now, and then what else? We had Savitar easily being destroyed by Nora. So the way the evil speedsters went down was just absolutely pathetic. I was like, no, this can't be this can't be. I was legitimately, I was like thinking of turning off, I was thinking of turning it off because I was getting like so pissed off at how they were humiliating all of these classic speedster villains that I've been so excited to see, especially with Zoom. I couldn't believe what they did with him. Well, okay, to be fair, I'm okay with Zoom getting defeated by Keon, because at least Keon is a goddess, but the way he was defeated was moronic, because we have seen in the season 2 episode 6, when Barry fights Zoom for the very first time, Zoom has the ability to catch lightning. So it shows me that the current writers of that show at the time didn't go back and even check their own previous episodes for continuity, because if they're telling us that this is the same Zoom that was brought back from the season 2, like the timeline of season 2, and we even see some kind of flashback throughout the episode as Eddie is bringing them back, so this implies that this is the same Zoom that we saw in season 2, and not simply like an Earth Prime version of Zoom. This is the Earth 1 version of Zoom, as we saw through the flashbacks. So that version of Zoom has the ability to catch and throw back lightning. So it was very odd to see that Zoom would just stand there and let himself get hit by lightning, and that was pretty much him getting knocked out. Like, none of his terrifying, like, vibes were brought on from season 2 to season 9. He was just a cartoonish, over the top yelling kind of villain at that point, and I was just like, yeah, honestly, I would just rather they never brought Zoom back, because he had a good end in the season 2 finale. Like, I wish that was the end of him. I wish they let that character rest instead of kind of destroying our memory of how he used to be. So that was just one example of why I hated the finale. Now let's go ahead and talk about Savitar, who was able to fight Kid Flash, the Flash, Jay Garrick, and I believe it was yeah, I guess that was just those three in the final fight. I don't think Jesse Quick was in that fight, if I can recall. Yeah. So at that time he was able to fight off like 3+ different speedsters in the season 3 finale, and then in this episode he doesn't even react when Nora like grabs the blade that he uses to kill Iris. He tried to kill Nora with that blade, and Nora just easily rips it off, and then she speeds behind Savitar and stabs him so easily, which doesn't make any sense, as we've seen Savitar is way faster than what was displayed in the final episode of The Flash. And now, my two least favorite parts, Godspeed being defeated by Cecile, and Reverse Flash being humiliated by Allegra. So, now let's go ahead and talk about Reverse Flash first, because, Godspeed sucked anyway, but, I mean, I'll still get into him. Like, I felt bad for Godspeed, and I'm not even a fan of Godspeed, but I still felt bad for him. Like, that's just how badly they did all the Speedster villains in this final episode. They managed to make me feel for Godspeed as well. But let's go ahead and first talk about Reverse Flash. So, Reverse Flash, at this point, his character has already been getting ruined from the past few seasons anyway, but this is basically just like the final nail in the coffin when he basically starts acting like Barry does. You know how when Barry could easily win a fight, but then he just, for some inexplicable reason, decides to monologue over and over and over until the good guys are able to defeat him. So that is what Reverse Flash did. He basically turned into Barry 2.0, started monologuing. Instead of just, using his vibrating hand, he instead decided to talk until Allegra had the chance to, like, knock him out in, like, 2 shots. So she first, like, fired a beam at Thawne, and then when Thawne kept on talking about, killing Allegra, instead of just doing it, that's when Allegra was able to knock him out, and that was the end of Thawne. That is the very last time we see Barry's greatest villain, and it's him getting defeated by a side character. So, you can see just how amazing that was. Sarcasm all around, man. That was awful. But, yeah, so that is how they defeated Reverse Flash. That's the final time we'll ever see him in the whole show, and he had one of the most pathetic displays in that episode. And let's talk about Godspeed next, because oh my god, I don't even know, like, I can't find the exact words to describe how much I hated this fight scene, because how can Cecile react to a speedster? It makes no sense. Like I said, this finale was full of inconsistencies. It didn't even have good fan service, because the fan service here was them acting like Spider-Man No Way Home and bringing back all the Speedster villains, but if you're just going to have them look like fools, it's not really fan service well done. It will just infuriate all the viewers who expected more from these characters. So, this episode didn't even have good fan service, had an awful resolution to a show that has been going on for 9 seasons, and the way that the Speedsters were defeated also makes no sense, because if we go in and look at Cecile, she was able to react to not only one Godspeed, but I think almost a whole dozen different Godspeed clones. She was able to react to all of them and easily defeat them. So, do you know just how crazy that is? Let me give you context, because in season 7, when Godspeed was the final, like, villain for season 7, it took Barry and Reverse Flash combined to finally bring him down. And don't forget that in this episode, Eddie gave all of the evil speedsters a power boost. So the Godspeed we saw in the final episode of The Flash is actually supposed to be way stronger than the Godspeed in season 7 who fought off Barry and Reverse Flash all at the same time. And that is crazy because that you're telling me that Cecile was able to easily destroy a stronger version of Godspeed, and not only one version of Godspeed, but an entire legion of Godspeed. So, as you can see, there is absolutely no logic. It's pretty much so freaking terrible that it may as well be fan fiction. Like, honestly, if I'm being honest, I think even fan fiction might be better than this, because not even in my wildest dreams could I have predicted Cecile beating Godspeed or Allegra beating Thawne. And then let's go ahead and talk about the pacing of this episode, because like I said before, this episode had to cram a lot of storylines into one, because Eric Wallace, instead of using instead of using this advantage wisely, where he had a lot less episodes than usual, so he could have instead cut out the filler and work on the main storylines. He instead filled his season with a bunch of filler episodes, which is excruciating to watch on top of that. And then he had to cram all of the important plot points into one or two last episodes. So it's very easy to tell why the pacing suffered for this. In my opinion, it went by either too fast or too slow. They managed to make it feel like both of them at the same time. So now we go ahead and talk about, the final, last few minutes of the season finale. So Eddie Thawne was defeated with a pep talk. We just gotten quite common in the last few seasons. They would you do a pep talk instead of the actual fighting. And also the really, really annoying, the Speedster lightning, where they kind of act like in Star Wars. I have no idea why they shifted from, punching each other to just simply firing lightning bolts or throwing whatever crap. I don't know, I don't like what, the change that they tried to pivot to. It just didn't work out. It was just corny, you know what I mean? It's just very corny, and it didn't work. It just didn't work. Now, I don't know if you guys liked it, but for me, I was just like, please bring back, the classic Speedster kind of fights. Those were way better. Look back to Season 1 when Barry fought Reverse Flash. Look back to Season 2 when Barry fought Zoom. Even when they threw lightning, they didn't, overdo it. That's the best way I can explain it. They were able to still make it feel like Speedsters being Speedsters and not suddenly Star Wars ripoffs, which the last few seasons was kind of guilty of, I should say. So, so then we had Barry, running around the city, monologuing as he threw, a lightning bolt to 3 different, future Speedsters, and I guess he gave a whole final speech that, concluded the episode, and then we also saw, Nora being born as well, and yada, yada, yada. It was just and then Joe and Cecile getting married. So, anyway, that, they absolutely missed the mark as well. Even for that, they missed the emotional, aspect of it. Now, when Arrow ended, so Arrow had a way better series finale than The Flash did. When Arrow ended, I actually was like, wow, that was a good ending. I mean, okay, Arrow's ending was not perfect, okay? Don't get me wrong. I also had my own problems with the way Arrow ended, but for the most part, I was like, okay, that was a satisfying end overall. But when it comes to The Flash, I'm like, yeah, they absolutely fumbled the ball around for The Flash. They really did Barry dirty, and it's unfortunate as well because Grant Gustin is a fantastic actor. It's not his fault, really. When it comes to the all my complaints for this show, for what it's worth, I really don't hate the actors. The actors did the best they could with the dumpster fire of a script they were given, but when it comes to the writing, the execution of certain plot points, they couldn't make it work, and it sucks because I know Grant Gustin, he poured out his heart and soul to this show for 9 seasons, and he deserved much better than what he got for this. So yeah, so the series finale ended, and now, like I said before, I said earlier in the video that I've been watching this show since 2015, so you would expect that I would feel sentimental or sad that the show ended, but guess what? I didn't, because I was just instead relieved that they finally put The Flash out of its misery. I've not been a fan of this show. Well, okay, so the only reason why I stuck around, even with how bad the last few seasons were, was because I've been a loyal fan since Season 1, so in a way, it was kind of like a sunk cost fallacy for me, so I just wanted to really see it to the end. I would power through even the most painful episodes, even if I hated them. I would just try to like get to the end out of respect for this show, because this show was really very good back in the day. Like season 1, season 2, and even season 3, honestly. Like I didn't like season 3 when it was first released, the Savitar saga, but upon like further rewatches, I actually started liking it a lot more now, especially after how bad season 9, 8, and 7 were. I also started to appreciate season 3 a lot more. In fact, I actually made a Reddit post about it where I kind of used a Thanos meme where I kind of said that I treated season 3 way too harshly. I actually love that post. I'm gonna link that down in the description below. I made that post on the Flash TV subreddit, which you can see in the video right now. I will link that down in the description below as well, so you guys can maybe upvote or comment if you want to. But yeah, so as a fan of the first 2 to 3 seasons where I really enjoyed it, I wanted to stick with it through the end, hoping that it would probably get good again, but you know, unfortunately it really never did. So yeah, the final episode was like the worst thing I had ever seen. It was like an insult to the audience, and honestly, I think that's being too kind. They didn't even care about the consistency of power levels or the pacing. They didn't. It's like they just threw all effort out, and they just said, we're just gonna end this without giving like a crap as to the quality of this episode. So yeah, those are just my honest thoughts about the Flash series finale, and season 9 as a whole. It was a bad final season for the Flash, and I will probably make a separate like review for season 9, because this video mostly focused on the finale, but I can probably make a separate review video as well for season 9, like as a whole. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you guys agree or disagree, leave a comment down below, and I might also change my opinion based on some of your points. But as of right now, The Flash season 9 had the worst finale I had ever seen, and it was such a bad finale to a show that has been going on for 9 years. And the weird thing is that it's not only the conclusion of The Flash, but it's also the conclusion of the Arrowverse as a whole. So you can see how much more it had to be good, and not only did it fail in that regard, but the magnitude of failure was unacceptable. So yes, I know that I haven't been online as much on YouTube, and I'm sorry about that, but from this point on, I will be able to post a lot more videos, but I just been quite busy with other stuff in my life, and also, you know, my first term at university was quite successful, so I'm just glad that I was able to get that down before making this video. Like, I watched the series finale on May 25, so that was around the time I was at, I was in my dorm watching it, and then I'm like, wow, man, like, wow, like, this show has been going on since I've been in middle school, and it ended in the worst way possible, and I've been wanting to make this video for a while, and I'm glad I was able to. So, yeah, like I said before, leave your comments down below on what you thought, and I will see you in the next video. Raphael out, and it's great to see you all again.